Welcome to another episode of the podcast Profits Unleashed podcast, where we inspire coaches and consultants to use podcasting both as a guest and as a host to grow their audience and ultimately get more clients. Now, today's episode is Quantum Leap for Joy and Freedom. My special guest is Victoria Rader. She helps purpose-driven individuals quantum leap into joy and freedom by aligning with their divine worth and unlocking limitless possibilities. Now, make sure that you stay to the end. After the ads, I will be talking about how to show up and shine on your podcast guest appearances. But first, if you've been feeling stuck in the grind or just sensing that there's more out there for you, this is your invitation to expand into it. So let's dive in. Welcome to the show, Victoria.
Karen, thank you so much for having me and for being the powerful influence. That is just strikingly gorgeous. I had a chance to listen to a couple of your episodes, and the value that you provide is immense. And so I'm really honored and thrilled to be here with you today.
Oh, bless you. It's an honor to have you on the show. And would you like to share with the listeners a little bit about your backstory? Now, you're a quantum expert. Well, what does that even mean? And what initially inspired you to become a quantum expert?
I think for a lot of us, when we look back, when we have that awareness, we'll realize that our journey started at the moment our life starts, right? It's just the awareness kicks in a little later. But if you start tracking back and you say, oh, wow, this prepared me for this and this prepared me for this. And so I was born as a very psychic kid in a non-psychic environment in the Soviet Union, where the very mention of anything that was not standardized block of existence was punishable by law. And so I was born in Ukraine, and very early on, what my parents used to say is that it's called Vika's hug. Like when somebody would feel bad, I would come and intuitively just hold them, and they would feel better. And then all of a sudden, I'd feel my hands like move to them to just, I felt the energy go through me. I didn't have the word, the knowing what was happening. Like it was just, oh, you just love the person, love a perfect stranger. And these gifts were coming in without any framework, right? So when gifts come without framework, now I'm talking to everybody. When gifts come without framework, we don't welcome them usually with wisdom and gratitude. We judge ourselves as weird. Okay, so that's very important. It doesn't matter. You don't have to have had the same similar gifts to me. Whatever your gift is, when it is being poured abundantly through you and you don't understand what it is and how it is, you start feeling weird. And when you start feeling weird, you will do one of the two things. You will block it to try to fit in and belong, and then you continue being lost for many decades ahead of you. Or you claim it, and it comes with a price of temporary, and I say temporary, rejection from society. Look at your life where you are. And that was my childhood of a weird kid with a lot of gifts who chose to be self-catapulted and rejected. So no friends, no books, a lot of inner experiences. At age 11, my parents like, what do? We're just going to push her gently into having friends. And every summer we had these big campfires by the house to start the school year. I lived in a 9-story building. And so they were just gently pushing me to this beautiful campfire, and I would bring food and sit year after year, just a couple steps away from all the kids with the food, hiding. I'm really good when a person hides their light because I can relate to it so fully. Until one year, another girl came up and said, hey, what do you have there? You have food. Can I have your food? And then she brought me into the group. And I've learned another gift that I uncomfortably had, which was a gift of leadership. And all of a sudden, within months, I was leading these kids that were just for strangers, and I was afraid to come and meet. That's really the beginning of understanding the power of the gift that we each have. So when we talk about quantum is the level of energy that exists outside of our awareness. And when we become aware of it, we create miracles with it. That is the most basic way to describe quantum field, quantum access. We can talk quantum mechanics, or we can simplify it. But that's the beginning. The beginning is that 11-year-old kid who is completely shy and chose to shine instead.
Wow. And yeah, it is. Do you think it's misunderstood? That word is thrown around quite a bit, quantum physics. But when you're talking about, yes, it's energy. And I think on a certain level of awareness, most people realize that, yeah, our energy is controlling a lot of things due to the law of attraction teachings and The Secret and things like that. Yeah, we've got to be in the right energy and we've got to be aligned. But for you, so how do you work with clients? You're helping them drive them towards that joy and freedom. If they're not aware of this energy, how do you do it? What sort of
Yeah.
process do you have to help them become aware?
So great question, right? Questions is what creates reality. So by doing exactly what you're doing right now, prompting them to the better question, and I'll give the 3 prompts and 3 questions for everybody today. But what came in as you were talking is that, so I do have a PhD. I'm a doctor of quantum physics, not just metaphysics. I have spiritual degree and I have practical degree. I don't throw it around. It comes in when it is needed and necessary. But I think that speaking of The Secret, I just had an amazing opportunity. I was in a Zero Limits movie with Joe Vitale that just came out a couple of weeks ago. And the Zero Limits is the quantum field. So to simplify it, the quantum is the particle of creation. In quantum physics, the quantum is the particle of creation that acts as a wave. And so
Mhm.
it can be both a particle, which is observable matter, I see it, or it is continually moving, it is in continuous motion, is just a wave of energy. Our brain struggles to understand the dual nature of things, and so it wants to solidify things. It wants things to be a certain way, because how do you walk on wavy water unless you're Christ, right? How do you walk on waves? We want to walk on solid ground. So the humanity's need to solidify things in order not to fail or fall through is what freezes the potential of quantum field. That is the simplest
Mm.
way I could explain it. So what does one do? I want to give an exercise to somebody right now who's tuning in and listening. When you feel you're falling through space because everything is falling around you, you're anxious, you're depressed, you're terrified, your body is looking for the solid ground, yet everything around you is moving too fast. The first exercise to do is to lay down on the floor physically, because as long as we're alive, we have this physical matter, the particles that house the beautiful quantum energy. You're going to lay down on the floor and you're going to allow yourself to keep falling in your mind until you land softly on the ground. It's the most powerful shift into presence. And once you land on the ground, you're going to say, I'm safe, I'm grounded. And then my favorite affirmation that will start expanding you in every way: I am an unlimited being, accepting from the unlimited source in unlimited ways. And so it grounds your physical body into safety. You're supported. A lot of us feel so unsupported. So physically working this matter on the floor that you're supported while stating a higher quantum truth of who you are. I am an unlimited being. Accepting, not just receiving, because I can keep receiving this and it keeps dropped I keep receiving the
Mm.
Amazon boxes, they keep dropped in front of my door, but I'm accepting from the unlimited source in unlimited ways. So honestly, if somebody does just those 2 things, their life will change in the most
Mm.
miraculous way, right? So that just wanted to bring the understanding of quantum field within the physical body, right? That's what we are. We are unlimited, that must be grounded in this physical matter to feel solid ground underneath us, to live an unlimited experience. That's the combination of the two. And then to add more value with the questions that I've mentioned is that the very first step for every person, for client that comes in, is to, I say, notice what you notice, because what and how you notice is what and how you create. A lot of us think safely that we're much more positive than we actually are. So the universe is
Mm.
capable of answering only the questions we ask. And so every situation has different levels of questions to be asked, and it will produce the result based on the framework of the question asked. So when
Mm.
something is happening in your life, a person that you trusted betrays you, what do we tend to ask as human beings? How could they do that? The worst possible question to ask. Because the second you say, how could they do that? What you're asking is to understand the motive of a very low frequency of performance. You're talking to the infinite field and you're saying, please show me the worst possible way. And then we're so surprised that we're feeling worse and worse. The worst question to ask is, how could they do this? Don't ask that question. You don't understand it? Congratulations. In English language, understanding means you're standing under something. You want to stand under something you're reaching to understand. So when life is falling apart, which will happen in this material world, your question is to ask, what is the best action I can take to make it a little better? How do I increase my capacity for a better action? What is the best question to ask, a decision to make, or action to take in order to find the best solution? Just throwing questions. The more dangerous situation is when things are going well for us. Because what happens when things are going well, it triggers generations of genetics going like, when is it going to go south? What goes up must come down. And so you look at the business's S curve and we're like, it's normal. It's not really. It doesn't have to be. So for somebody who's listening today, who does not need to be on the floor right at the moment, who feels they're like, I'm on top of the mountain, the question to ask is, how much better can it get? The question, how much better can it get, will stop self-sabotage prior to it forming. And I got to tell you, how much better can it get just overcomes and passes you and surpasses you. Because until there's one hungry child on this planet, it can get better and you can be a solution. So how much better can it get? That is all the value for the prompt of the question that your powerful question has framed for us.
Ah, I love that. It's such a fascinating subject, and I can't even. Are we going to ever get to the end of it? Because there's always more questions. But isn't it so interesting that we as human beings in general, yes, we're so focused on the particle and the wave because it's so in the unknown, if you like. It's like we've been conditioned, have we not, to be wary of, be fearful of, or the unknown. We're just not safe there, or our ego mind doesn't like it, does it? Because we need to know the facts, we need to know the solid particle. But what I'm getting from you is that the power's in the wave. The power is in the wave. Everything you want is in the wave because it hasn't solidified in the particle. Am I getting?
You're not just getting it, you're deepening it beautifully. So absolutely, because the potentiality, like in Newtonian, in simple physics, we talk about potential energy and kinetic energy. So everything has energy until you push it and it starts moving. And so it's very similarly, if you think of infinite potential and it is seeking to express into solidifying into the actual matter. Now, if you look at my company logo, if those of you that may be watching on YouTube, Shine has me, like all of our apps, products, a lot of my journals, my book has little M big E as me, Prosper Me, Empower Dash Me Up, it doesn't matter. The reason it's there, it's the M is little because it is a part of who we are as that mortal matter that manifests materially. And I gotta tell you, if you don't feed it, if you don't sleep it, if you don't love it, it will sabotage the big E. So then what is the big E? It is the eternal energy, the essence of expansion. And if you look at it, it's the electron, it's the particle. And so all of us, I love English language. When you say I am me, you're saying I am mortal, surrendering to eternal, or dictating eternal. I am matter, surrendering to energy or sabotaging it. I'm material, focusing on essential or forgetting to. I am manifesting through expansion. or through ego limitation, right? So that's the choice. The choice is surrender little m to the big E all day long. And that's the commitment. We can't have it disappear. Like, I get very alarmed when people say fearless, meaning no fear. The word itself says less fear, fear less. It doesn't say fear no. It's a fear
Yeah.
less. And so understanding that you've got to love through fear and love fear because your body is doing the best job it knows how to survive. Years ago, a client of mine, and with her permission, actually, we're going to talk about Stephanie Cruz. Stephanie, in case you hear, thank you for giving me permission to use your name. So Stephanie came to me and she was like, I'm so terrified. I can't make a commitment because if I start committing, I'm over committing, I'm over exhausting myself. And I was going to go to a good old personal development of how to discipline yourself through commitment. I open this beautiful vehicle of mine, the mouth, and what comes out is so beautiful. So I know it's divinely appointed. And I'm like, but Stephanie, you actually are committed. You're just committed to the scared part of you. It's not lack of commitment for us. We're so committed. We're committed to the sabotaging scared part, and we're invited to recommit daily to the sacred part. Here's a cool play with words. When you look at scared and sacred, same letters. The letter that has shifted is the C. So I call it this, the shift of commitment. From scared to sacred is a shift of commitment. And how? By laying down on that ground, grounding the matter that it is supported, and affirming the truth. I am an unlimited being, accepting from the unlimited source in unlimited ways, affirming verbally so your cells remember. And so you're not denying the fear. You're not denying the fact that as long as I have this body, it's going to go poop and pee. Shocking, shocking for anybody who's listening. It just still does it, right? I'm honoring it through surrendering it to the expansion of the eternal energy. That is that quantum field.
Amazing. It's crazy how we speak to ourselves, and that actually looking at the language that we're using to talk to us, even when we're talking to ourselves, so talking in our own head and using verbiage that isn't serving us, should I say, that sometimes just a switch in the language that we are using, that, again, that's what I'm hearing from you, can make a big difference.
If any Harry Potter fans or magic fans, the word abracadabra that we say all the time actually means spoken into reality, as you speak. Abracadabra means as you speak. The two men that inspired a lot of my work 2 decades ago were Bruce Lipton in his book Biology of Belief and Greg Braden his book Divine Matrix. And so just after COVID hit, so when did they reopen? 2022? 2022, after the COVID, before the war, I had an amazing opportunity to go with Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton for 3 weeks to Israel.
Wow.
And we went through some of the most amazing sites that bring all of the different religious beliefs and spiritual practices. We had an incredible time together. And one observation, and I want to give shout out to Bruce, that I had was, as we were hiking these very steep inclines, and he was in his early 80s at that point, I saw that man live everything he wrote. He would talk to himself. He would say, now, Bruce, you've got this. This is something your body can totally do. Look at you climbing. Look at you controlling your breath. Like, it was so inspiring to see a master follow his craft. Not only he understood the biology of belief, here I was, and I just walked by him, and it was a very humbling and raw experience to see that. Like, that to me was even deeper than the message of the book, because they've proved that molecular structure of the DNA changes in his studies in the labs when he isolated the DNA and it was exposed to different environments, verbally and otherwise. The structure was changing. So much so that my daughter just gotten her dual PhD, and one of it is in epigenetics, in statistical behavioral genetics and neuroscience. So she'll be combining everything that used to be, it's new age. No, it's the purest of science, and the science is catching up.
It is. That I just love, because yes, you're so right. So many people just consider it as a little bit woo-woo. Weirdly, my podcast used to be called A Coffee with Karen, a cup of positivity with just a sprinkling of woo. So I would interview people to try and drip feed people to maybe opening up to this way of thinking. But now, yes, because of these great teachers and people like Joe Dispenza, they're bringing that science and woo woo. They're bringing it in, and it's no longer just woo woo. It is an actual fact. And that is just so fascinating to see. I wasn't aware. So thank you for that. I'm going to go and have a look at that, about them actually looking at the whole DNA and noticing. I had heard about I can't remember what his name was, but where they'd looked at water crystals. And
Oh,
then,
Masaru
yes.
Emoto. Yeah.
And again, what are we made up of? Hello. So if it works for that, when people can have that vision and see, because going back to what you were saying earlier about the particle and the wave, right? We're so conditioned on the physicality of everything. And so we are, I believe it when I see it. I believe it when I see it, when actually the opposite would work in your favor a lot better and a lot quicker. But now, because we can go, there you go. Now you can see it. Now you believe it, because the way we talk, which is just, it is. 20 years ago, you would have gone, what a load of rubbish, that sci-fi stuff. But now it is being proven. Think about it for the moment. Just take a step back and just go, if that is true, and they have proven it, not in just water crystals, but your own DNA, that's so powerful. And it just raises the question that, can you change things? Absolutely. And it starts, maybe, I don't know where it starts. I'm sure you can share, Victoria, better than me, but how we start speaking to ourselves. Because quite often, when we are not aware of this stuff, we can speak worse in our own heads about ourselves than we ever would dream about verbalizing to another human being. And who's getting the reaction from that? Us. We're harming ourselves. It's like a form of self-harm, isn't it?
Yeah, very much. I think it's obviously the words and the feeling. A lot of people become afraid that if they joke or they say things and they live in fear that they're creating something. It is the words that are charged with the energy that you put in,
The
right?
intention.
And where it's to me, right? It's always just to me. We've done over 15,000 sessions. I have an incredible team of coaches, and we've done over 15,000 sessions. Actually, we'll be doing a TEDx on it. And what I found is that where it stands, where it starts, I have it here. There's a journal called Worthy Me. Where it starts and where it ends is in your awareness of your infinite worth. So there, I'm looking at how to crystallize the value in the best way. Okay, to summarize it in a simplest way is, there are three paradigms subconsciously that damage our ability. Only three. They have subdivided in hundreds and thousands, but the three are: any aspect of I'm not enough. If you have any aspect of I'm not enough, you will be verbalizing it. If you have any aspect of I'm so different, I don't belong anywhere, you'll be verbalizing that. The third one is what I want is just out of my reach. Those are three core paradigms that limit our access to unlimited creation. If you're a true winner, you have all three. Right? If you go, I'm so different, nobody gets me, I don't belong anywhere, of course, because I'm not enough. And so what I want is never in my reach, right? Is out of my reach. That is the cycle, because the words themselves do not originate. We think that we improvise so well. Well, 90% of our thoughts are repetitive thoughts. They're just on autopilot. It takes an immense amount of effort to create an original thought. And the words are simply the expression of this paradigm of going on thoughts. So to shift your awareness of your infinite worth will change the inner frequency of feeling who you are, which will retrain you to speak to yourself with respect. Because usually what happens if you're forcing just the language, you're going to say, I'll forget it, it doesn't work. My favorite
Yeah.
people, I've tried the positivity for 6 months, nothing happened. And you cannot, it's just the clothes you change. The clothes you change is beautiful or ugly, but it doesn't change the body that wears it. So
Mhm.
the words we use is the clothes to the sense of worth we carry.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. So how do we do that though? So how do you change? How do you have that paradigm shift, all these internal limiting beliefs that really are hold people back? And I haven't heard that before, these top three. Yes, I am not these are things that I think all the listeners can recognize. And oh yes, maybe that is the way I'm doing this, because sometimes all this positivity, do affirmations. Again, if you really don't believe
Yes.
those words out of your mouth, nothing's going to change. It's more of it is, and I suppose it sounds so easy. You've got to feel it. How do I feel it if I don't have it?
Yeah. So the first step is that's going to be helpful. All of our programs, we work with universal laws because you cannot out affirm the law. You can tell yourself I'm floating, but the gravity is a little stronger than the intention.
Yep.
I'm just saying, I've tried. Okay, I've tried. Not yet, not there yet. So just to start with the very first law I want to bring into our awareness that'll shift a lot for a lot of people, probably for everybody actually, is that we have misunderstood one of the very basic laws as the law of giving and receiving. We say we give and then we receive. That is a false aspect. It is actually the law of receiving and giving. And why is it so important? Because if you give to receive, you're not really giving. You're buying transactional. And if you guilt trip yourself about giving and you're like, oh, I felt it, then you're creating from guilt. So I'm going to talk about receiving and giving in a minute. But for now, the most important concept is that it's not what you feel, it's what you feel about what you feel that creates
Mm.
your reality. So you felt anger. Why? Because your little matter had its boundaries violated. It's a healthy response. I feel angry. What you feel about anger is what sets the vibration of your reality. Either you're angry with yourself that you got angry, and
Ah.
it's triple anger, or you're ashamed because your spiritual ego says, you're a 5D creature, you should feel nothing. Well, I'm like, come on. And so, whatever that either guilt or shame or more anger, it is that outer frequency that you immediately judge your human experience with that becomes your
Mm.
dominant frequency. So, when you're grieving and you surround grief with hope, it is hope you manifest.
Ah, I love the way you've just shared that, because I truly believe that this is what almost is when people talk about there is a thing of toxic positivity. And because I think they're that's a bad way of putting it. I think people sometimes when they're introduced to this new way and people are starting to learn about energy and how we think and how we speak, it's coming from a place of they're trying, right? They're trying to do the right thing. But just like what you've just said there, if you're trying to suppress those feelings or tell yourself off, or you shouldn't react like that, you shouldn't get angry, or feelings of shame, you're actually making things worse. So
Yes.
sometimes, so maybe that's what, if you're listening and you're thinking, yes, I've tried that and it didn't work, maybe that's what was wrong. The idea behind it was correct, but you're just maybe going about it in the wrong way. And they might think to themselves, yes, I would beat myself up because I was trying to stay positive and actually I was feeling angry. So then it's not, it's like you said, how you felt about that. That's what's doing the damage. That is really powerful stuff. And so I think anybody listening who's turned maybe away from this way of thinking, maybe need to it just needs to be slightly reframed, and you were on the right path, right?
Yeah.
But allow those feelings of anger without any judgment, maybe, or, what would you suggest to
Celebrate confusion. I would suggest celebrate confusion. In our addiction for seeking clarity, we're very uncomfortable being confused. But the word confusion comes from fusing two neural receptors. Things that are new need to be fused. Con is with fusion. So when you receive or perceive something new, you might go into a panic that things are not clear. Celebrate confusion and affirm that, oh wow, this is confusing. I'm learning something new. That's number one. Number two, I call them bridge affirmations. If you are broke and you have no ability to even survive, affirming I'm a money magnet will cause so much inner rage within you that that might need more than one session. Okay, so what I'm saying. So what we can do as if a person comes into our fold, I would say, who is completely misplaced in their life, like they forgot who they are, where they are, we start them at this basic affirmation every day, in every way, my life is a little better. Why? Because it is actually true.
And it's small. It's easy to believe. Rather than this.
Yes, just every way. And then I say, now you've received this belief. So that's your one tiny thing for today. And tomorrow all you have to do is just find one tiny thing that tomorrow is a little better than yesterday. And it could be in your health, in your wealth, in your, so that is the safety belief, the bridge belief. Every day, in every way, my life is a little better. I can say that. I can believe that. I can subscribe to that. So I call them bridge beliefs. And then you go and then you help a person go from bridge to bridge and to bridge into the quantum leaping.
Love that. Nobody could have explained that better. Victoria, I could speak to you all day about this subject. I find it absolutely fascinating. And for the listeners out there, if they're starting to think, oh, okay, this is making a lot of sense, this feels a little bit lighter, what should the listeners do next? What is it that you offer? How do you help people find joy and freedom?
Yes, I will give both free steps and just slow price step. What's coming in to wrap it up with, however, is something that I say only as prompted and often, is that whether you believe, understand quantum physics or not, but if this infinite universe or God had a better way to fill space and time continuum where you currently are, it would have been done so, but it's not. So you are irreplaceable, indispensable part of this creation. And that is the beginning of your worth. And if I know anything, I know that to be true. And so if you've done something unworthy, or worse yet, somebody has done something unworthy to you, remember it didn't make you unworthy. It was unworthy of you. That is the reframe for this whole conversation I want us to take home with us. You will make mistakes. You're human, probably tomorrow. And when you do, simply remind yourself, this was unworthy of me. Why? Because every day, in every way, I'm getting a little better. Why? Because I am an unlimited being, accepting from the unlimited source in unlimited way. So that's just something I want to offer as a statement. Where to find and where to start? I would first go to mygiftoffer.com, where you will receive a quantum ebook with the actual methodology that is free to start breaking through 50 most limiting sabotaging patterns we have found in our practice. That would be the first step. The second step, go to meseries.com and grab the journals or the book that speak there for you. The one I talked about today was Worthy Me Journal. Maybe it'll be Prosper Me book. Those would be the first steps. And from there, if you commit to growth, you can find us on you2shine.com. YU2shine.com.
Fantastic. And don't worry if you didn't quite catch that. If you're driving and listening to this, you're obviously not watching it if you're driving. Go to the show notes and all of Victoria's details will be in there. So, Victoria, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. What a fantastic conversation there. I learned so much as well. So, yeah, thank you so much for your time. And to the listeners, I will be back after the ads. Bye for now. So welcome back. What a guest. Victoria, I could have listened to her all day long. But I'm back after the break. And so this is how to sharpen shine on your podcast guest appearances, just like Victoria did. Because before you ever say a word on the mic, you're already sending a message. The moment you show up to the interview, the host is watching. So how prepared are you? What energy are you bringing? Are you there to actually connect, or are you there purely to perform? Because here's the truth. How you show up for that recording says everything about how you show up in your business. So if you come in frazzled or ego driven or just treating it like a content opportunity, you're closing the door before the episode even begins. But if you show up with presence, clarity, and respect, the host will feel that. Now, here's what no one talks about. The host. They could become a client, a referral partner, or the person who introduces you to your next big opportunity. So it's not just about the audience. It's also about the relationship you're building with the person on the other side of the mic. That relationship can shape your entire business if you treat it right from the very beginning. And that starts before you even start recording. So let's talk about how you actually do that, because honestly, this isn't complicated, but hardly anyone actually does it. First, be prepared, not just mentally, but logistically. It sounds obvious, but show up on time. Being late immediately shifts the energy. Then also set your stage. Clean background, quiet space, your phone off, notifications silenced. You don't need a full studio setup, but get a decent mic. A dynamic mic usually beats a Blue Yeti, I think, because I feel that it picks up everything. Use headphones. I haven't got headphones on at the moment. And check your lighting. Make sure it's facing you, not behind. And for the love of podcasts, know the platform. If it's Zoom, StreamYard, or Riverside, test it out beforehand. Don't spend the first 5 minutes fumbling with your mic settings. That instantly makes you look unprofessional and it throws off the vibe. You'd be amazed how often I log into Zoom to host an episode and the guest pops in on their phone in portrait mode, sitting in their car mid-errand. Yes, this has happened. True story. And it's painfully clear that they're not taking this seriously. They don't see it as a real interview. They don't see the podcast as a real production. And honestly, that's showing me that they don't respect my time. Behind the scenes, a podcast takes effort, planning, money, energy. So when a guest treats it like an afterthought, that sends out a message this isn't worth preparing for. And do you think I'm going to refer anybody to them after that? Nope. But the guests who show up with presence and preparation, just like my last guest, those are the ones I remember. Those are the ones I build relationships with. Those are the ones I will hopefully do business with. And if you're thinking, I'd love to look and sound better, but I don't have the gear, really, that's not a barrier. You don't need expensive equipment. You just need to care. You can grab a low-cost mic, point a lamp towards your face, throw a rug down to absorb echo. There are simple fixes that show the host and their audience that you take it seriously, because the polish isn't about price. It's about respect, and that doesn't cost a thing. So if you're a coach and you want to turn podcast guesting into a real ROI, this is exactly what I teach inside my new Podcast Profits funnel. We cover how to choose the right shows, pitch with confidence, build relationships with hosts like potential JV partners, use strategic storytelling to shift your listeners' belief, and most importantly, how to create an evergreen back-end monetization engine that works for you 24/7. So all you have to do is show up and serve with authenticity in a powerful, intentional 30-minute conversation, borrowing other people's audiences. And if you'd like to find out more, just go to podcastprofitsunleashed.com/free. It will be free only for our podcast listeners. This will actually be a paid offer, and it'll change how you think about every podcast mic that you ever step up to.
Thank you for listening to today's episode on the Podcast Profits Unleashed podcast. If you're